Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we'll cover the biography and some of the works of Sheikh Yusuf of Makassar. Sheikh Yusuf of Makassar, also known as Sheikh Yusuf al Makassari or Sheikh Yusuf Abdul Mahasin Tajul Khalwati. He was a prominent and influential Islamic scholar and Sufi from Sulawesi, Indonesia. Born in 1626, he is particularly noted for his role in the spread of Islam, both in Indonesia and in South Africa. His contributions. Sheikh Yusuf was a staunch advocate of Islam and played a significant role in the resistance against the Dutch East India Company, or the VOC, Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie, which was trying to establish control over the Indonesian archipelago. His resistance and influence eventually led to his arrest and subsequent exile by the Dutch. In 1684, he was exiled to the Cape of Good Hope, which is now part of South Africa. At the Cape, Sheikh Yusuf's presence had a profound impact on the local community. Despite being under house arrest, he continued to teach and spread Islam among the local population and the slaves brought to the Cape from other parts of Asia. He is credited with laying the foundations of the Muslim community in South Africa. The position that he was sent to, or the place that he was sent to in South Africa, was known as Zandvliet. It was about 30 kilometers outside of the city of Cape Town. It was later called Makassar. This was the name allocated and the piece of land allocated to him by the Dutch East India Company. The location became a significant site of religious education as Sheikh Yusuf continued his teaching and spiritual practices there, leading to the spread of Islam in South Africa in those early periods. The estate of Zandvliet served as this major sanctuary where other exiles and slaves would find the focal point for education and communication along Islamic lines. I personally have close connection to Sheikh Yusuf, as my mother's father, or my grandfather, comes from there. He was Ali Zandvliet, or Ali Zandvliet, a direct descendant of Sheikh Yusuf. He lived there and grew up on that estate. My mother's relatives still live there and have inherited the lands that Sheikh Yusuf was sent to. In a kind of interesting accident of history, my mother is the offspring of both Sheikh Yusuf and the other famous Muslim alim that comes to the Cape, Abu Bakr Effendi. Sheikh Yusuf's legacy is significant both in Indonesia and in South Africa. In Indonesia, he is remembered as a national hero who stood up against colonial oppression and as a scholarly figure who contributed to Islamic knowledge and the spiritual life of the people of Sulawesi region in Indonesia. In South Africa, he is revered as one of the founding figures of the Cape Malay Muslim community. His burial site is in Fora, a small town outside of Cape Town, and it's often seen as a place of sacred pilgrimage and has been declared a national monument by the government. Sheikh Yusuf's life and work exemplify the transnational influence of Islamic scholars of his time, including people like Abu Bakr Effendi, showing how their teachings could cross oceans and influence far-reaching areas. His ability, you could argue, to maintain his faith and influence over others despite the hardships of exile marks him as a figure of considerable resilience and spiritual authority. Sheikh Yusuf was educated in various Islamic sciences, including theology, jurisprudence, and Sufism. He traveled extensively in his quest for knowledge, having studied in Arabia and particularly at the Al-Azhar University in Cairo, which was at the time and still today a major center of Islamic learning. After his studies, on his return to Indonesia, Sheikh Yusuf became involved in the resistance movement against the Dutch East India Company, which was trying to exert control over the Indonesian archipelago. His opposition to Dutch colonial rule and his ability to unite various local factions made him a significant political and religious leader of his time in that region. Due to his resistance activities, the Dutch exiled him to Ceylon, which is now Sri Lanka, and later to the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa in 1694. In South Africa, Sheikh Yusuf's presence had a profound impact on the local community, so much so that he is accredited for establishing Islam in the country, particularly among the enslaved and indentured populations. His settlement in the Cape became a kind of a sanctuary for escaped slaves, and it was here that he continued his teachings in Islam and helped sow the seeds of the faith among the local population. Sheikh Yusuf is remembered as a hero both in Indonesia and South Africa. In Indonesia, he is celebrated as a national hero. Their hero like a Mandela who resisted colonial pressures and contributed to the spread of Islam. In South Africa, he is of course revered as the founding figure of Islam in the nation, especially in the Western Cape. His gravesite is in Makassar, the place where they sent him to initially, and it has often become a form of a pilgrimage site and has been declared a national heritage site in South Africa. Sheikh Yusuf's life and works are emblematic of the broader narratives of resistance against colonialism and the spread of Islam through personal conduct, scholarship, and community leadership. His legacy continues to inspire and influence both religious and cultural discussions in contemporary contexts. Sheikh Yusuf of Makassar was not only influential through his political and religious activities, but he also contributed to Islamic literature through his writings. We know of a few of them. He authored several works on Islam, particularly focusing on Sufism, Islamic jurisprudence, and theology. One of those works is entitled Mirkat al-Mawatif. The book is a contemporary of the Mishkat al-Masabi, a collection of hadith sayings. It is considered an important work in understanding the hadith sciences and the teachings of Islam. Second one is Hidayatus Salihin. This is a manual of Tasawwuf, Sufism, which serves as a guide for spiritual travelers seeking the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is widely recognized in Islamic mysticism and has been an influential text in the study and practice of Sufism, particularly in Southeast Asia. Then there's Fathul Mu'in, a commentary on an earlier work on Islamic jurisprudence. The text is particularly noted for its detailed examination of the Maliki school of Islamic jurisprudence, one of the four main Sunni legal schools. Then he also has a text, Lubabul Hadith, another work of the science of Hadith, and it serves as a guide to understanding and interpreting the sayings of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then Tuhfat al-Mujahideen, an important treatise on the religious and legal aspects of jihad, which includes discussions on Muslim conduct during times of conflict. These works reflect Sheikh Yusuf's deep commitment to Islamic scholarship and his efforts to disseminate Islamic teachings not only in his native land, but also during his time in exile. His books have played a significant role in shaping Islamic thought and practice, especially among Malay-speaking communities. Sheikh Yusuf of Makassar left family members behind. One of his sons, Nurul Mubin, is often mentioned in historical accounts. Like his father, he was involved in religious instruction and community leadership within the Cape Malay community. Also, Tuan Guru Imam Abdullah ibn Qadi Abdul Salam, although not a direct biological son, Tuan Guru is considered a spiritual successor and part of Sheikh Yusuf's extended family or community of followers. Tuan Guru was born in 1712, exiled to the Cape from Indonesia by the Dutch in 1780, and is renowned for founding the first mosque in South Africa, the Owal Mosque in Cape Town, and for writing a Quran from memory during his imprisonment on Robben Island. The descendants of Sheikh Yusuf, including his children and those he influenced, were integral in establishing and nurturing the Islamic community in South Africa, in particularly influencing people in the Cape, where they contributed to religious education, the establishment of mosques, and the overall socio-cultural formation of the Cape Malay community, which remains a vibrant part of South African society today. Their efforts continues to and has ensured that Sheikh Yusuf's teachings and his spiritual legacy continue to influence generations long after his death. The evidence is still there today in the strong Islamic identity and practices within the Cape Malay community. In fact, as I said earlier on, I too am a descendant of Sheikh Yusuf of Makassar. I guess I will end with a quote that I read from one of his books, translated into English. Many years ago, I read this, kind of stuck with me, in which he says, "You don't have the right to judge others, not even yourself." May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put nur in his qubur. Amen. Please subscribe to my channel. It helps grow our knowledge base on Islamic culture and politics. It supports my goal of wanting to produce many hundreds of knowledge videos on Islam. Terima kasih, shukran, thank you, thank you.